Hi all, this is Connor from Concrete Character Sheet, and today we're tackling the tricky status of the rogue. When it comes to optimizing, spells tend to be the king, so most optimized rogues are either arcane tricksters or 3 levels in assassin rogue and nothing else. However, folks familiar with the channel will know that I am skeptical of arcane tricksters for the simple reason of, why didn't I just play a hand crossbow bard and get most of the same toys, but better? This also underlines a problem with rogues in the current class setup. They don't really have a specialty. They are good at skills, but only as good as bards until 11th level, and eloquence bards give them a run for their money on some key skills. Rogues are good at damage, but it's hard to upgrade their damage at all, and they lose damage when they multiclass. Last but not least, they don't really offer much in the way of control on the battlefield. With all that in mind, today we're going to build a mostly rogue with a specialty in high skill checks to really distinguish this character from a similar level bard. On top of that, we'll splash in some control options to further tune up our hero. For our race, although technically Kenku would work too, we're going to go for another lineage from Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, the Reborn. Lineages offer so many interesting roleplay opportunities, and even more so with the Back from the Grave Reborn. In this case, I'm going to lean into that by choosing Githzerai as my original race, putting Reborn on top of it as a lineage. I've got a lot of role-playing ideas in mind for this race, but it also serves as an easy way to play a character with some psionic abilities. Not all GMs want the hassle of integrating psionics into their world, so being able to say, it's fine, only Gith from the Astral or Limbo have psionics, lets us move right past the issue, since lore-wise our roguish hero is a Gith. Reborn oddly does not give us dark vision, but we get 2 skills, and various fun tidbits from our Deathless Nature feature that can be handy for infiltration, like not having to sleep, eat, drink, or breathe. However, I picked this lineage especially for Knowledge from a Past Life, which allows you to add a d6 efficiency bonus times per day to a skill roll. This will help us focus on skill checks as our specialty. For stats, we'll, by coincidence, be going with a standard array, even though I plan to use point buy, with 17 dexterity, 14 charisma, 14 constitution, 12 wisdom, 10 intelligence, and 8 strength. Could you swap intelligence and wisdom here to focus on different skills? Absolutely, but from an optimization standpoint, we are more worried about wisdom saving throws, so here you go. At level 1, after mysteriously rising from the grave, our Githzerai hero will be a Rogue 1, picking up no less than 8 skills, 4 restricted to the excellent Rogue skill list, as well as Thieves' Tools. From the Rogue list, we'll take staples like Stealth, Perception, Acrobatics, and Persuasion. Really, similar to Bards, the strength of this build is being free to make an entirely roleplay choice with your pre-lineage race, as well as picking up any skills you might prefer. For me, I'll take the Soldier background to represent our hero's past in the Githzerai's war against the Mind Flayers and Githyanki. That adds proficiency in a gaming set for our fantasy poker needs, as well as land vehicles. I'll swap out the skills though, and finish up our list with Arcana, Sleight of Hand, Investigation, and Insight. For our expertise skills, I'll gain expertise in stealth, and since we're the only class that can do this, take that bards, I'll also take expertise in Thieves' Tools. With our Thieves' Cant and Sneak Attack features, we're ready to go. At level 2, however, we're going to veer wide and take a second class. I was tempted to go Cleric, either Arcana Cleric, or yes, if we must, technically I have to point out that the Peace Cleric's Emboldening Bond feature would further help us with skills, but we try to avoid Peace Cleric here. However, I think there are other ways to get the things we're looking for, so we're going to focus on upping our battlefield control and take a level of Undead Warlock. Indeed, in our hero's case, the Lich Queen Vlaakith has revealed herself as the origin of our resurrection, a fact our Githzerai laments as the sworn enemy of Vlaakith and her Githyanki adherents. Warlocks are great for creating interesting roleplay opportunities, and this one doesn't disappoint. With Warlock 1, we will be taking Booming Blade to keep up with the damage bar set by Arcane Tricksters, and then Mage Hand, the Hex Spell, and either Protection from Good and Evil or Bane. Both scale well, though we will have low charisma, so Bane may not land that often. I'll take Protection from Good and Evil here, though, for the simple reason that Mind Flayers are aberrations, and what Gith doesn't want to be prepared? Hex has a lot of uses, but I'll explain why we took it in a moment. We also get Form of Dread, which gives us 1d10 temporary hit points several times a day, and when we use this thematic ability, our attacks can cause fear. Our lower charisma save is less of an issue here because we'll get so many chances to cause the effect. And we're immune to fear while in Form of Dread, which shockingly helps us since we didn't get fear immunity from being, undead. At level 3, we'll head back to Rogue and gain Cunning Action. Here's the part where we wait through the long, arduous 3rd level before getting our subclass, but that's what it takes. Use your rapier with Booming Blade, then disengage. It's an old combination, but it gets the job done. Until level 4, where we get almost all the pieces we need for the build, as we take none other than the Soul Knife Rogue. Group telepathy is undeniably useful, but we're mostly here for Psi-empowered Knack, which has so many little benefits that make it shine through the Reborn's knowledge from past life feature. The rules are unambiguous that these two abilities stack. You have the choice to use knowledge from a past life for any skill, though not a tool, after you see the die roll but before the result is declared. Then, if you fail, you have the choice to use Psi-empowered Knack if you are rolling for a skill or a tool you are proficient in, and you don't even spend the die unless you succeed. Yes, it's weird that skills and tools are separate, but they are. Anyway, these two powers stack to let you make clutch skill checks, particularly in social encounters or when using deception, and there's nothing wasted. You only have to use these two features after you see the results of the roll. And then you can decide to add just a d6, or potentially another d6 or higher, die to the check. This is the heart of the build, where we've added in a sort of effort system into skill checks. Instead of having to just accept the bad results, we can decide how far we want to push. On the combat front, we also get Psychic Blades, an interesting feature that means we're always armed, fun for infiltration again, and depending on the needs of a combat, we can still use our Rapier plus Booming Blade or combine Form of Dread with our ranged dagger attacks, and then add Hex as well, adding a level of damage and control as our enemies make fear saving throws and take 1d6 plus dex plus 1d6, and then 1d4 plus dex plus 1d6 plus sneak attack on most turns. There's no getting around that we need to put most of our levels in Rogue to improve sneak attack. But these additional features, some of which scale with proficiency bonus, help to tick up our damage when it counts, and being able to make all of our damage contributions from 60 feet away distinguishes this Rogue build from most others. Of special note is the fact that once our Form of Dread is up, we can potentially hide as a bonus action and use advantage to throw a dagger 60 feet with advantage. If the enemy fails their save, we can have done sneak attack while also locking down our foe for a turn from 60 feet away at minimal cost. As a side note, both Psychic Blades and Fear do have a scaling problem, as more enemies become immune to Fear as you increase in levels, and the Psychic Blades never improve in damage. That's actually why we took Booming Blade. Eventually we are likely to find a magic sword, and it will make more sense to fight with that sword, Booming Blade, and disengage. But we still have a solid ranged backup option, and not every monster is immune to Fear. At level 5, we are taking Rogue 4 and grabbing a feat. The feats in this character are going to vary by what your party needs. One surprisingly good option, if your party doesn't have a cleric or someone to cast guidance, is to take the classic Magic Initiate feat to take Guidance, Light, we still can't see in the dark, and Bless. Sure, this doesn't get added to your spells known, like Fey Touched, but we also have only one slot, so this is not really an issue, and having a second spell to cast that can't be resisted, like Bless, will serve us well. The reason for this feat, though, is to take Guidance, which is the last piece of our skills puzzle until level 12. Guidance very clearly takes place before you roll, so on rolls you expect, you can cast Guidance on yourself, then roll, then decide whether you use Memories of a Past Life and Psi-empowered Knack if they both qualify, which they most often will. You just gained 2 more psionic energy dice, so you're really at a high point for this build, unlike most multi-class builds where level 5 is their weakest point, with all of your skill boosting abilities in place. If someone else can cast Guidance on you, raise your dexterity to 18 with the skill expert feat to double down on skills instead. At level 6, we are a Rogue 5 with another sneak attack die and our uncanny dodge feature. Along with level 5, this might be the high point of our build, as the gains from Undead Warlock, while highly effective, won't scale as well as I'd usually like for this channel. On the other hand, I'm not as worried about this because we are not trying to maintain a caster level. At level 7, 8, and 9, we take Rogue 6, 7, and 8. We gain more expertise for skills like Persuasion, Sleight of Hand, or Perception. Yes, by this point, half or more of our skill list has expertise on it. Then we gain Evasion, always a survivability staple. For our feat at level 9, Rogue 8, consider the feats we discussed before, like Skill Expert if you don't have it already, but also Lucky so that we can redo our rolls for even further assurance on tough skill checks, Skilled to fill out our skill list in advance of our Rogue 11 feature, or the Eldritch Adept invocation Mask of Many Faces to hide our weird undead face in polite company, and to help us infiltrate. To improve our damage, we should consider the Martial Initiate feat to take the thrown weapon fighting style, to add a decent +2 damage to both our offhand and main hand thrown psychic blades, or just take dueling if you've moved over to the rapier and booming blade combination. It's not much, but it adds up. At level 10, Rogue 9, we gain the shockingly good Soul Blades feature, where homing strikes lets us use psychic energy dice to make sure our attacks land, with the unbelievable rider that we only expend the die if we hit. The benefit this gives you against high AC enemies is colossal, and really unlike any other similar feature, since even Battlemaster Precision attack dice can roll low and run out without much benefit. Then we throw in Psychic Teleportation, which has some limitations. You can't teleport through walls of force if the dagger hits the wall, after all, and rolling a random distance is a weird way to move, but still a great feature to get in addition to homing strikes. We progress through level 11, Rogue 10, where we get our bonus feat, so raise your dexterity to 20 if it isn't already there, or take one of the other feats we mentioned. Then we hit level 12, Rogue 11. We may have a dozen or more skill and tool proficiencies at this point, and all of them can't roll below a 10, with our expertise skills unable to roll below an 18 or 20 next level. This feature might feel lackluster compared to 6th level spells your peers are getting, but its sheer reliability is what separates rogues at this level from anyone else. The average watchman has almost no chance of spotting your stealth rolls. The regular person on the street basically can't pierce your lies, no matter how ridiculous. What casters might accomplish with spells at this level, you can accomplish with social engineering or sneaking, without expending a resource. Or if you need to pickpocket a god's closet with a DC of 30, you have guidance, memory of past lives, and psi-empowered knack to put you over the top. The remaining levels of this build play like a regular rogue, as even though adding blind sense, inexpensive invisibility, wisdom saving throw proficiency, and some feats to the character isn't going to eclipse a wish spell, it's hard to turn down that ever-improving sneak attack die, which we still cap at 10d6 at level 20, along with a feat. The Soul Knife ability we get at level 18, Rogue 17, is not stellar. Many high-level monsters have immunity to stun or legendary resistance, but being able to land a 1-minute stun on anyone, even with a fairly big chance of failure, is at least approaching the power of 8th level spells, so I'll hardly turn it down, and having the option to do it up to 5 times a day isn't bad. Our psychic energy dice continue to scale until level 17, so even though we're mostly just a rogue at this point, we're still able to boost our skills a small amount to contribute to our specialty. There is an argument to switch over to Warlock for a few levels after level 12 to pick up a second attack via Pact Weapon and the 1d8 extra damage from Undead Warlock level 6. After all, the second attack would add 1d8 plus dex to damage, approximately making up for the loss of 2d6 of sneak attack, and you would get an ability score increase as well as useful spells like Shadow Blade, Mirror Image, Fly, and Counterspell. Overall, the damage curve is somewhat similar if you use Shadow Blade for Warlock 3 and 4. However, it would go even more levels without a damage boost. For this reason, and because the high-level Soul Knife abilities are broadly worth getting, I will stick with Rogue in this build, unless your party is preparing to fight Vecna, let's say, and you absolutely need more counterspellers. To sum up, this is mostly a Rogue with a tune-up. We set out to give the Rogue a true specialty, and then shore up some of the Rogue's weaknesses. We're still prone to some of the late-game downsides of the class, but to be honest, I'm most excited to play this character for the role-playing opportunities. Blackith is one of the suggestions for an undead patron in Von Richten's guide, and that was in large part what inspired the build. I enjoy characters who have a rich backstory to rely upon, even if it doesn't come up in the plot, and I hope this build delivers on that idea. If you're enjoying the videos, please consider liking and subscribing, and as ever, don't split the party.